Alright guys, so both of the videos you're seeing here were made in Blender through the Blender MCP. One of them was made by GPT 5.6 Soul, and the other was made by Claude Fable 5. And before I give you guys the answer of who made what, I want you guys to take a look at the video, pause it, and then comment down below which one you like better. And of course, here is the prompt that I used for both of them. And if anybody's wondering, I used both of them on the highest reasoning setting. So GPT 5.6 Soul was on Ultra mode, and then Claude Fable 5 was on Ultracode. And this is only one of the 3 comparisons for the Blender MCP that we're going to be running today. And if you enjoy watching comparisons like this instead of listening to somebody talk about benchmarks, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss the next one. And I have to be honest, I thought that they were both really good and I was very impressed, but it wasn't until we got to the last one that I decided, okay, this model right here did a better job for sure on this one. I mean, look at it, just way more detail. The newly anticipated GPT 5.6 Soul versus the most powerful AI model that the world has ever seen, Claude Fable 5. Today we're going to be testing these 2 models using the Blender MCP to see which one of the 2 actually does a better job. We will be running 3 different tests. On the first one, we'll ask them to build a 3D donut because of course we can't have a Blender video without the donut. On the second one, we're gonna have them make the Pokeballs, and I'll reveal which set of Pokeballs belong to which model. And last but not least, we're gonna be running the same test that we always run, which is the hardest test that I can think of, and that is the dragon test, to see which model can create the best dragon from this reference image. And I have to say, these models are super expensive. In monthly subscriptions alone, I'm currently paying $200 for GPT 5.6 and $200 for Fable 5, just so that you guys don't have to. But honestly, you don't have to use Codex or the desktop app to be able to use the Blender MCP. You can use both of these models through the same desktop app by using the sponsor of this video, ChatLLM by Abacus AI. They have a desktop app where you can switch between the most powerful models available on the market, such as GPT 5.6 Soul and Fable 5, as well as many others. And I can vouch for this because I've actually used them on some of my previous videos, as you can see here. In this video, I connected the Abacus desktop app to the Blender MCP so that I can have GPT and Opus both create Mario Kart characters. And I was able to do that without having to jump between Codex and the Claude desktop app. The process couldn't have been any easier. And if you don't have the hardware to run Blender on your desktop, their web app will actually let you use Blender in a virtual environment where you can run the same exact test that we're running here today. All of that just for $10 a month. So if you're somebody who's looking to use multiple models without having to pay for multiple subscriptions, click the link below and check out ChatLLM by Abacus AI today. Thank you ChatLLM by Abacus AI for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back into it. Alright, now the infamous donut test. So the prompt was simple for this one. I basically just said, I want you to make a 3D donut using the Blender MCP. I want you to go above and beyond, be creative. You will be graded on the visual appeal of your result. So the prompt was simple, and Claude Fable 5 only took about 12 minutes to complete this task. And here's the results. And so this is actually one of the best outputs that I've received from a Claude model, but I do have to admit that I don't like the fact that it's like square around the edges of the glaze instead of more of a natural smooth outline of the pink glaze there. Other than that, I do think it's a very good output. The coffee seemed a little bit too plasticky, and I do think that the donuts are also a little too plasticky, but it's definitely one of the best outputs so far up to this point. Alright, and up next we have GPT 5.6 Soul on Ultracode, or Ultra mode I guess. And GPT took about 10 minutes to complete the task, and it took a completely different artistic approach from what Claude did. So this is the output of GPT. So as you can tell, a completely different approach, very outgoing approach, and it called it the Midnight Eclipse Patisserie. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Handcrafted dough, blackberry, mirror glaze, 7 drips, gold leaf, sugar crystals, raspberries, meringues, chocolate garnish, cinematic lighting, and 2 camera angles. Yeah, it's way more outgoing than Claude's donut for sure. So I don't know what you guys think, but I kind of like this one better. I don't know, it just has more life to it. But I don't know, the other one was more going for a more realistic approach, but the other one still seemed more plasticky than this one for some reason. So I'm going with this one. And I think just based on the donuts, I think you guys can already tell probably who made what in terms of the Pokeballs. So here's a Claude creating its Pokeballs, and I mean, it didn't do a bad job, but for Fable 5, I think I was expecting a better job. I don't know if my expectations are too high at this point, but I think it could have done better. I don't know, after seeing GPT's results, you know, this was just a little too lazy in my opinion in terms of the actual Pokeballs. It could have used a little bit more texturing on some of them, maybe like the more special ones. But yeah, that was the results for Claude Fable 5, and also it took about a good 30 minutes to complete the whole task compared to the shorter time that it took GPT 5.6 Soul, even though they were both running on ultra mode. So yeah, and then we have GPT here, which took about 20 minutes, so around 10 minutes less for something that I believe is better quality in terms of the presentation. Now, I don't know what you guys voted in the beginning, which one you guys thought was better, but I think that I would go with GPT just because it added a lot more detail in terms of like the overall presentation. For example, you have the lights, the placement of the name of the Pokeball is also like, it was more intentional. The zoom in and zoom out was also better. And I also like the fact that on some of the special type of Pokeballs where the texturing on the image, you can actually see that it is textured in some way and it has some like type of protrusion to the ball. It's not just a flat ball. It added a little bit more and put a little bit more attention to that than Claude did. Also on the button in the front, on Claude's Pokeballs, some of them, the center black line was overlapping the button, which I don't know, for a model of that caliber, it's not something that I would want on the final product. But you guys tell me down in the comments. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but that is my opinion. And honestly, I'm a fan of Claude and I like it, but so far in this one test with the Pokeballs, I think GPT has won both the first one and the second one based on my own personal scorecard. But we haven't gotten to the final one, which is the hardest one to complete, and that one has always been won by Claude. So the dragon is the ultimate test in my opinion. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one. Okay, so the dragon is one that Claude has always won, and this was the result that Claude gave us for the dragon. I've run this test before on this channel with Fable 5 already, so we're not going to cover it too much on here. And before we move on to the new GPT 5.6 Soul, this was a reference from what the output was from the last model of GPT 5.5. This is what it did. So we're gonna see if it improved and if it improved enough to surpass Claude on this final test. All right, and then after about 17 minutes, this is what GPT 5.6 Soul gave us. It's definitely an improvement from what it gave us before, but it seems to be going for the same approach as it used to do in the previous model. Giving us some type of flat wing look. The wings really don't make sense to me on why it keeps trying to do that. Overall though, Claude Fable 5 got 1 point for the dragon, which is the hardest one, and in my opinion holds more weight. But for everything else, GPT 5.6 Soul did do a better job overall in terms of presentation. So I'm curious to know what you guys think overall. I'll be dropping some more tests over the next few days, so if you guys are interested in this type of content, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. I'll see you guys on the next one.